Transitioning into vampirism, Michelle struggles to resist temptation while being pursued by the ancient son of the Vampire King. Michelle and her fellow scholars came to Transylvania to study vampire folklore when they met Radu, an old malicious entity who desired the bloodstone that his brother, Stefan, inherited. Michelle fell in love with Stefan, but Radu murdered her companions and mixed his blood with hers. Stefan then stabbed him in the heart and infused Michelle with his own blood to resurrect her as a vampire. In the castle, Radu lies on the floor with his dismembered head. His eyes open, and a subspecies seizes his head and places it close to his torso. Slowly, the severed head attaches to his body, and he rises with a smirk. Radu enters a room and unlocks his brother's coffin. He declares that the bloodstone is his before impaling him in the chest. As his sibling slowly disintegrates, he drinks the blood from his brother's wound. He then moves on to another cast, where Michelle is resting. He prepares to stab the scared woman, but the sun hits his face. Frightened, he flees down the stairs, where he finds a tomb to rest inside. He wakes up the next night, gasping for breath. Meanwhile, Michelle wakes up and rushes to Stefan's coffin, only to discover that he has already disintegrated. In anguish, she pulls out the branch from his chest and takes the bloodstone from his hands. As she prepares to escape, she senses Radu, so she hides to avoid him. Upon returning to the chamber, Radu curses as he learns that Michelle and the bloodstone have vanished. As he vows vengeance on the woman, he takes up his brother's bones and smashes them. Meanwhile, Michelle escapes and rushes into another home. While getting dressed, she checks the vampire bite on her neck and realizes that her reflection is slowly disappearing. By the time Radu reaches the house, Michelle is gone. He observes the girl from a distance as she blends into the crowd at a railway station. He is left in agony as the train rushes up to its destination, and the girl sighs in relief. Michelle exits the train and walks with the crowd in Bucharest. Radu's shadow follows her, making her flee in terror. Inside the Bucharest hotel, she requests to make an international call. Anxious, Michelle talks to her sister Becky, crying that she wants to return home since she doesn't want to be like Radu. Becky suggests that she go to the police, but Michelle insists that she needs her. Becky then tells her to wait for her, and Michelle pleads for her to hurry. In her room, the bellboy switches on the light as Michelle enters, but she swiftly turns it off. She looks out the window and sees Radu watching her, but he flees when the church bell rings. Radu retreats into a crypt, where he encounters an emaciated creature. Upon arriving, the creature warns him that he isn't permitted to enter. Radu then addresses her as Mummy, asking whether she has no feelings for her most devoted son. She pushes him away, demanding that he leaves. Instead, he gives her a dagger dipped in his father's blood as a gift. She feeds from it and asks about Stefan, so he admits that he turned him to dust. Mummy orders him to hand over the bloodstone, but he claims Stefan's lover took it. She tells him to end her and deliver the bloodstone, but he can't since his blood has mingled with hers, which makes Michelle his fledgling. Mummy then bites his hand to retrieve blood from him and orders him to return to his father's castle, burn the remnants, and scatter their ashes to the north wind. He must stay until the moon is full, for there will be horror. Michelle wakes up scared the next morning as the sunbeams hit her face. She desperately crawls into the bathtub and hides there. Later, the cleaners enter the room and are horrified to discover Michelle in the tub, thinking she's dead. Soon, a detective examines Michelle's body and discovers a wound on her neck. They place her body in a bag, and the detective instructs the police to contact the US Embassy. He then goes through her possessions and discovers the bloodstone. While being transported, Michelle abruptly awakens, startling the driver and causing them to crash. She gets out of the car and runs into the streets. That evening, she sneaks into a theater, where she finds a glass coffin to sleep in. At the same time, Radu burns the remnants in the castle, as instructed. Soon, Becky arrives at the hotel, seeking her sister, but only meets the detective and Mel, an official from the US Embassy. Mel reveals that they discovered her sister unconscious the other day, but now she's missing. When the officer returns Michelle's belongings, he asks Becky about the bloodstone. Becky feels they suspect her sister of stealing since it looks expensive and precious, but the police dismiss it. Meanwhile, Michelle awakens in the glass coffin. She rushes outside to contact her sister, but hesitates and hangs up before they can speak. She then goes out and notices the changes in her new vampiric nature. She follows a man to a club, feeling the urge to feed. As the two share a moment, Michelle's fangs show up, almost biting the man, but she resists and runs away. Michelle returns to the coffin, feeling terrible about what she has become. The next day, Becky and Mel go to a village museum to ask about the American scholars who went there with Michelle. Professor Nikolai claims that Madame Olivia and her companions are staying at the monastery to explore vampires in Castle Vladislas. Becky presents him with the bloodstone, hoping he is aware of it, but the professor's memory is failing him. Mel then gives him a map, asking for the monastery's location, but Nikolai offers to accompany them. When they get to the monastery, they call out, hoping to find someone, but no one answers. The professor guides them to Castle Vladislas, said to be the Vampire King's palace. He adds that the ancestors are buried there, and the family still owns the property, but they left Romania long ago. When Becky questions him about the narrative, he says it's about Vladislas, the Vampire King who made peace with the people and had 2 sons. On the way, Mel discovers a freshly dug grave, so Nikolai checks it. Worriedly, he goes to the castle and leads them into a secret path to enter. Mel hesitates to go in, but Becky is eager to look around. As they head down the passage, Becky is startled to see skeletons. Still, they continue and reach the main hall. The group notices that the torches are lit, suggesting that someone is present. Mel thinks they should leave, but Radu senses them and wakes up. He orders the trespassers to leave his father's house, so the group apologizes and leaves. As night falls, Radu follows the group on their way home. As soon as Becky and Mel take the professor to his home, Nikolai is horrified by the shadows on the wall. Meanwhile, Mel takes Becky to the hotel, where her sister secretly waits for her. As they part ways, Becky and Mel share a moment as they enjoy each other's company. After he leaves, Becky sees Michelle as the light hits her, but Michelle runs, not wanting her sister to see her condition. Becky chases her, and as soon as she catches her, Michelle orders her to back away. Becky wants to know what's going on, but her sister refuses to tell her. Becky then shows her the Bloodstone and asks about it. Radu suddenly appears from above and groans as he sees the Bloodstone. Michelle tearfully snatches the Bloodstone from her, and Becky notices that she's cold. Finally, Michelle spots Radu watching them, so she screams and flees in terror. At the theater, Michelle holds the Bloodstone as it glows and slowly fills itself. She drinks from it, but Radu suddenly appears, stating that the Bloodstone is not for monsters like her. Michelle begs him to leave her alone, but Radu says she belongs to him and must accept him as her master. He warns her that he will torment her for all eternity if she refuses. He then takes the Bloodstone and leaves. As evening comes, Radu hands Mummy the Bloodstone. As she takes it, she asks what concerns him, so he admits that he hungers for love. Mummy reminds him that love is for mortals, but Radu knows that he loved his brother and enjoyed taunting him. Mummy adds that Stefan desired peace and that he was his deliverer. Radu adds that Michelle resists his mastery and curses Stefan for infusing kindness into her mind. Mummy tells him to destroy Michelle before she destroys him, but Radu wants to watch her suffer for eternity. The next day, the detective advises Becky and Mel to hold off on looking into the castle. Becky shares that she met Michelle last night, and she pleaded for the Bloodstone before sprinting off as if someone was after her. They meet up with the professor to search for the Book of Vladislas. Nikolai soon finds it and claims that it revolves around the Vampire King and the Bloodstone, which is believed to be the saint's blood. As he turns the pages, he stumbles upon an etching that looks like the Bloodstone. They wonder if the one in her sister's possession was a replica or the real thing. According to the professor, there was a rivalry between the king's 2 sons, Radu and Stefan. Becky recognizes Radu's name from when her sister screamed last night as if he was there. She's convinced that what's happening to her sister isn't just a fairy tale. As night falls, Michelle awakens from her glass coffin and travels to the club as her hunger intensifies. Meanwhile, Mel drops Becky off at the hotel, and she kisses him farewell. As soon as she enters her room, Becky peeks through the window and sees Radu outside, so she hastily shuts the curtains. At the club, Michelle finds the same man from before, so she takes him to the theater. As they caress each other, Michelle bares her fangs. She succumbs to temptation and bites him. She is disgusted at first, but her desire gets stronger, so she continues to consume the stranger's blood. After that, she is horrified by what she has done. Becky is sound asleep when Radu emerges out of nowhere. He tries to bite Becky on the leg, but he pulls away when the phone rings. Becky wakes up and answers the phone. To her surprise, Michelle calls her, begging for help. The two meet at the park, but Michelle orders Becky to back away. As she steps into the light, revealing her bloodied form, Michelle admits to killing someone and drinking his blood. As the sun rises, Michelle begs for her sister to save her. Suddenly, Radu appears. Becky bravely orders him to leave her sister alone, but Radu vanishes. He appears beside her terrified sister and advises her to embrace him and accept her fate. The two disappear, and Becky can only hear her sister's scream. Radu takes a terrified Michelle into a crypt. He puts her on top of a tomb and assures her that her mortal feelings will stop causing her agony. He then falls asleep next to her. Later, Becky tells Mel and the professor about her encounter with Michelle and Radu. Mel is skeptical and feels she's getting carried away, insisting that vampires do not exist. Becky stresses that her sister was covered in blood and admitted to killing someone. She adds that the man who took her was the same one from the castle. Nikolai then tells him about the Vladislas and the sorcerer who killed him. She is also the mother of Radu, who was entombed alive in a forest near Bucharest. He believes that if Radu is stalking Bucharest, this is the place he may be sleeping. Becky asks where it is, so the professor offers to accompany them. He then displays the weaponry of a fearless vampire killer, but Mel refuses to continue with this. He confesses his affection for Becky, but he's scared that it would jeopardize his career as a state legislator since her claims are utterly insane. He tells her to contact him when she comes to her senses. Later, Becky and the professor head to the crypt with their weapons. As they're about to enter, he reads the transcript on the gate, warning them not to enter or commune with the inhabitants of the unholy place. Becky gets scared, but the professor assures her that there's nothing to fear when it's daylight. The two enter the crypt and find Radu and Michelle resting. The professor prepares to stab Radu, but Mummy kills him with a sword. She then grabs Becky, and her screams echo across the hallways. Michelle awakens to her sister's cries. She confronts Radu and Mummy as they restrain Becky on a stone table, begging them to let her go. Mummy orders Michelle to attend to her master, Radu, but she refuses. Radu reminds her that letting go of her mortality will alleviate all of her sorrow. He says that blood is their sustenance, but fear and pain are their ultimate pleasures. Becky screams as he prepares to consume her blood and invites Michelle to join in. Resisting the thirst, Michelle grabs a dagger and stabs his face. Mummy then grabs Michelle, but she pushes her away. She then sets her ablaze with a torch, so Mummy flees. When Michelle turns around, she sees Radu holding Becky. Michelle grabs the dagger, but Radu warns her that it's a magical object that must never be touched. Enraged, Michelle stabs him, and even when Radu transforms into a shadow, she still pierces his hand. Radu then reveals his true self, and Michelle stabs him repeatedly in the chest. As he tries to stand, Michelle thrusts the dagger into his head. Michelle then frees her sister, but Radu grabs her leg. Becky takes a spear and drives it into his chest, putting an end to his horror. The sisters rush out of the crypt, but Michelle stays behind as they approach the gate since she can't go into the sun. Becky promises to wait for her until it gets dark, so she closes the gates. Michelle slowly backs away, but Mummy grabs her from behind and forces her back to their lair.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.